start with some breaking news, and the World Health Organization has just released a report estimating that 15 million deaths occurred globally due to the pandemic, around triple the current estimates.
During Tuesday's debate that a coronavirus vaccine was coming soon.
I don't think the Pfizer one is the right choice for India, and I don't think India, that's why wisely did not invest in that sort of, buying that sort of vaccine.
ఒక హెల్త్ వర్కర్గా కాక తన గురించి చెప్పాలంటే షీ వాజ్ ఫస్ట్ టు అడ్మినిస్టర్ కరోనా వ్యాక్సిన్ ఇన్ షికాగో అండ్ కోవిడ్ టాస్క్ ఫోర్స్ని లోరెటో హాస్పిటల్ షికాగోలో షీ లెడ్ ద టీమ్ అండ్ ఆల్సో చీఫ్ క్లినికల్ ఆఫీసర్, యంగెస్ట్ చీఫ్ క్లినికల్ ఆఫీసర్. ఇక్కడ నేను స్ట్రెస్ చేస్తున్నా, జస్ట్ 31 years of age, బట్ అంత పెద్ద రెస్పాన్సిబిలిటీని చాలా ఎఫిషియెంట్గా నిర్వర్తించారు డాక్టర్ నిఖిల జువాడి.
I have a very different way I practice medicine, and that's why I don't technically practice medicine in India right now. But in the US,
what is the major difference in the healthcare sector in the US and India?
I could go on this topic for a very long time.
What does the day of a healthcare administrator in India look like?
In India,
India is considered the diabetes capital of the world, right? So diabetes and hypertension are the two most common problems that you will encounter.
insulin is not an enemy. Your body cannot sometimes act. People forget other aspects. It plays a huge role in diabetes control. I had a story the other day that somebody did a health camp in a village. Some people were blaming them, saying, I was living my life before. But how many people know about the Gardasil vaccine? How many people in your family have got a colonoscopy? Nobody.
None.
Exactly. Boys in your family should also be thinking about cervical cancer vaccines.
We'd want to decide when we want to have kids, right? So what are the options that we can... Hello, welcome to Med Talks. I'm Dr. Nanika, radiologist at J Clinics. So today we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Nikhila Jawadi, who has made waves in the medical fraternity. She was the chief clinical officer in Chicago, and then now she's the CEO at J Clinics. Hello, Dr. Nikhila Jawadi. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So one of the major questions that we had. So you've moved from Chicago to Hyderabad. That's quite a shift for you, culturally and as well, like personally. So could you elaborate on that?
Sure. I think it's out there, but yeah, I have made the move from Chicago to Hyderabad and Hyderabad to Chicago quite a few times. The first time I did it, I was 11 years old. I was born in Chicago. I moved to Hyderabad when I was 11. My parents moved here. At that time, there was no international schools, at least here. And they moved me from a regular school in the US, a public school, which is co-ed. And here I was in Nasser, which is a girls' school. Great time, but it's a very different thing. I had to learn Telugu and Hindi both, written, writing, reading, everything for three.
So the transition took you some time, I guess, right?
Yeah, transition definitely took me some time. I wasn't sure if I would be here or like if I liked it. But those friendships were lifelong. They did end up being lifelong friendship.
Oh, that's great. So what made you decide to move back to the US after your graduation in Basco Medical College in Hyderabad?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I always actually wanted to do my undergrad in the US, but going to medical school in the US is very expensive. And it's not just the expense, it's long compared to doing it in India. I miraculously got a free seat in India. So the comparison of a free seat in India, MBBS versus doing it in the US, was quite an easy choice at that time. But as soon as I did graduate, I did end up doing my USMLE, did my internal medicine residency at Mount Sinai in Chicago, where I really formulated how my career would be.
Yeah. So how has that experience working as a chief clinical officer helped you in like starting Jade and all of that?
Oh, that's a big topic. But so if we start at the point where I was in my residency, I chose internal medicine because internal medicine, I think, makes the most widest impact. You can see somebody all throughout their life. You can help them with pretty much any disease in the beginning, and then you refer them to a specialist if they need to be referred. So starting with that, I realized, okay, if I'm going to do medicine, I want to make a good impact. So internal medicine was the first step. The second step I realized is, even though clinically practicing is a good thing, I wanted to see if I could impact it on a whole hospital scale. I got the opportunity to be in administration, I started in the quality department, working, to make sure that all of the protocols were in the right place, and then worked my way up to be the chief clinical officer.
Yeah. So you always wanted to go into the whole administration aspect, or
Right. When I was in residency, yeah, I decided that that's the direction I wanted to go. Still, with internal medicine being a focus.
yeah.
But then I did end up fulfilling that criteria.
Okay.
And when I moved back to India, after working in the US for 10 years, I moved back to India and I decided that after that experience, starting something that would make a difference, but in the way that I wanted to,
Yeah.
is how Jade came about.
So what is the major difference in the healthcare sector in the US and India?
I could go on this topic for a very long time, but to keep it kind of concise, I think India still, despite Google and influencers and all the other things in the market, it is still a very doctor-centric market. And we're not talking just about tier 1 cities, we're talking about all of India, right? It's still a very doctor-centric market. When a doctor moves from one hospital to the other, people move because of the doctor. So despite hospitals trying to establish a brand, you might go to that brand because of some quality and safety. You might definitely feel like that brand is there. But even then, if that doctor moves to a different brand, you will go there. And doctor's word is, you don't tend to step out of that.
So they're loyal to their doctors.
They're loyal to the doctors, and sometimes they think that youth or young doctors don't know what they're talking about. And that comes with good and bad. So older doctors only know things and they wait for, hours outside a doctor's OP when there's a younger doctor sitting right next to them who has been mentored by them, who will have their guidance, but they will insist, no, I will only see this particular doctor. That becomes somewhat detrimental to their own health also. In the US, it's slightly different, obviously, because insurance plays a role. You can't go to that doctor. And hospitals have a very community presence, which means they go to the nearest hospital. That is the best thing that they can do. They have a doctor that they've seen forever, and whoever that doctor says to go see, they will go see.
Yeah.
They don't say, I only want to go see this particular.
So in India, do you think the mindset is more about the number of years of experience? And that's
Yeah, I think India
Guides
years of
the decision.
experience plays a role, and I think at Jade, we try to make everybody understand that yes, we might be a team of younger doctors, but we all work in environments where we're constantly interacting with experienced teams, right? So there's a team together, and whether it's young or old, they do bring that experience to the team.
also willing to explore new treatment options instead of following the routine.
Yeah, not to say that older doctors don't,
Yeah.
but it could be that the same treatment that the older doctor will give you, the younger doctor will also know about. So why not also talk to them? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So going on to the next question. So what does the day of a healthcare administrator in India look like?
In India, I think some of my colleagues might have different answers to this, but healthcare administration in India, or actually, the best part about this question is that people always ask me, what about in India? What about in the US? But it's the same. Why it's the same is, at the end of the day, the hospital is a business. So if you know how to run a business, or if you can help run a business, that is what is the difference. So a hospital is, the doctors and the nurses and the patients are the people that the business is run for, but the behind the scenes is the same. You still need an IT department, you still need an HR department, you still need an accounts department. But the main emphasis that makes a difference is quality. So a lot of the administrator's day is taken up by, did we do the right thing? Did we follow the right evidence? Did we make sure that the patient is treated according to the right guideline? And you still have to deal with housekeeping. You still have to deal with accounts. So it's a dual role. You still do everything that a regular business person or administration would do in a regular company. On top of which, your medical experience comes in for this quality aspect, this safety aspect, this patient care aspect. That's what a hospital is. That's what the difference is.
Yeah. And do you think like these community health initiatives are essential in improving the healthcare setup in the country?
Yeah, I think my career, I've always tried to focus that, let's make a larger impact. So, for example, in India, everybody's always talking about, I'm doing health checkups all the time. I'm great. The question is, what are you doing with the health checkup? So you go to diagnostics, they'll tell you to take a package. Have you actually sent that or seen your one doctor who knows when you wake up in the morning, when you sleep in the night, what do you eat every day? Have they seen those tests? Or do you just assume that, okay, the black is not there, the red is not there on the lab test results, so
It's not gold, so it looks fine.
so when in India, for me, community health initiatives is not only about actually discovering that the patient has diabetes or hypertension, which a lot of people are doing. CSR initiatives are there. So there's camps everywhere. The question becomes about education. How are we telling the patients that what is the meaning of the results that happen at the camps? What do they have to do as follow-up? What about awareness about the disease itself? So just doing, I had this story the other day that somebody did a health camp in a village and they discovered 13 diabetics. Some people were blaming them, saying, I was living my life before this. You came and discovered I was diabetic. Now I have to do 15 things to take care of this diabetes. So community health in India is definitely happening. It's definitely something I'm passionate about, but education about it is also very important.
Yeah. So after this, coming to the preventative aspect, I think
Yes.
it's time we all focus on preventative healthcare. So anything you would want to enlighten about that?
Right. So obviously doctors in India are definitely looking at this now, but it's just starting. For example, in the US, and that's where I have a very different way I practice medicine, and that's why I don't technically practice medicine in India right now. But in the US, we are trained that every person that comes into the hospital, we look at what have they done so far for prevention also, not just for treatment. So somebody comes in with an age of 50 and is a female. Did they do cervical cancer screening? Did they start doing their mammograms? Do they need a colon cancer screening? So all of this happens. In India, not that it doesn't, but has it penetrated very far? How many people in your family have got a colonoscopy? How many people?
Yeah.
You tell me.
None.
Nobody.
None.
Exactly. And that could be that there is not enough evidence in Indians, and all of that could be. But do you want to wait for the evidence to come out? Or do you want to start at least talking to your patients and talking to your families about some of these guidelines that exist in the world and personalizing them? Meaning that maybe we don't start at 50, but at least once in your lifetime, you have to have a colonoscopy.
Yeah.
At least once in your lifetime, get the mammogram. Mammogram actually should be definitely done. And it's definitely being improved. A lot of people are getting 3D mammograms, digital mammograms, less pain. But how many people are going because of the diagnostic package or versus knowing actually that it is a reason for it is prevent breast cancer. You need to do it every
So
2
it's
years.
about the awareness.
It's about the awareness. A lot of people are talking. Talking is great, but what about the doing?
Yeah.
Right? So that's why preventative health is important, and it starts very early. I'll give you an example. How many people know about the Gardasil vaccine?
Yeah.
What is the
Very
Gardasil
few.
vaccine?
Yeah. Cervical cancer vaccine. Yeah.
Right. So if I say cervical cancer vaccine, people say yes. Okay, great. Do they know the guidelines have recently changed where you can start at very young for women and men, for boys and girls, and you can go up to the age of 45. A lot of people think, okay, 21 to 30, that's the only time I can take it. And why should I even take it? So what happened is recently a study came out in Europe that one of the countries, I can't remember which, but one of the countries, their cervical cancer rate has almost become nothing because of the follow-up to cervical cancer vaccine. A lot of my own friends, my own cousins, my own family doesn't know that it's that important. And but people will take a lot of things, nutrition-wise. They'll try ash cow juice for cancer prevention, but we have a vaccine. Try that.
Yeah. And that men have to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are not aware.
How many people know that boys are also, and it's not just for cervical cancer.
Yeah.
HPV, human papillomavirus, is for different type of diseases, and one of which is a definitive thing for cervical cancer. But men can also get infected, and men can also get cancer. So, and also you can pass it on to the women.
Women.
So you should also, the boys in your family should also be thinking about cervical cancer vaccines.
Okay. So coming to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has kind of shattered the healthcare system of US and India.
Yeah.
So how has that changed your philosophy or like how you look at healthcare administration right now?
Right. So one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is exactly that. what happened with the COVID-19 pandemic is people were scared, people had a lot of issues, but at the same time, they got tired. They got tired of following the rules. They got tired of using masks. They got tired of us telling them how many vaccines to follow, right? So now when we're actually telling them that, for example, in India, now the pneumococcal vaccine has been much more prominent. The influenza vaccine is coming out more. How many people know that these diseases, very much like COVID, can give you pneumonia and you should take these vaccines? Right?
Yeah.
What are the guidelines for specifically for them? And Pfizer and Merck and everybody's doing a great job of trying to raise awareness, but it's our job as doctors also to put it out there. And I think the pandemic has shown us that unless we take control of the narrative, there's a lot of people that can spread misinformation. And I know this applies a lot to the US when it comes to vaccines, but in India, there's a lot of other things that people put into the mix that need to be careful. Always consult a doctor. Don't just assume that anybody who's talking online or knows what they're saying.
So what is the advice that you want to give younger medical professionals who want to make a difference in the healthcare world?
Right. So first of all, decide what you want, right? Some people really think that being in the front lines is good. So then do that. Think of, if you want to do research, then do that. There's so many opportunities now that if you don't want to do it, either frontline medicine or research, there's so many other ways you can make an impact. Tech is a big thing. Pharma is a big thing. Go into that. But don't assume that just because you didn't pass an exam, that you didn't get a certain certificate, that there's no opportunities for you. There are many, many opportunities. You have to think about what you want and don't concentrate on just the test questions. Think about these things that we just talked about. How do you want to speak to your patients? Don't just, write a prescription and throw them out of the room. Explain it to them, educate them. Those difference.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And on the more personal front, so how do you de-stress after a long day of work?
I like to read, which, I read quite a bit. I read fiction. Everybody thinks reading means only self-help books or things like that. But there's a lot of good things that can come out of even fiction books, so I read.
That's great. And any advice that you'd give your younger self?
I think I would have taken a quicker path to where I am right now. What I mean by that is I wouldn't have been so worried about where I was and how I was doing and whether I was doing the right thing. I just kind of enjoyed it more.
So coming to women's health. So as doctors and even as young age, women of this age, we'd want to decide when we want to have kids, right? So what are the options that we can explore?
Yeah, so that's the great thing about what's happening right now in the women's health world. There's a lot of options. What we have to tell people is that be ready to have a kid. Whenever you're ready, it's there. But think about it beforehand. Meaning, you can easily say that I don't want to have a kid till I'm 34, 35. But get egg freezing done. Talk to your gynecologist. Ask when is the best time to do it. Make sure you trust them. Make sure they know what's going on in your life. And say, even if you're 29, 30, 31, freeze your eggs. No big deal. Then whenever you and your husband are ready, you can have those kids. But if you don't think about it till you're 35, then you regret that option. So
I think there are a lot of apprehension regarding the complications related to egg freezing and the quality of eggs and all of that.
Correct. So which is why for example, I was talking to my own gynecologist about this because as a doctor myself, I don't know enough about it. It's important that we actually find out and not just assume that there's complications or things. And nowadays, there's the technology, the way that things are done, the complications are less, and it's an easier process than it was. And the other thing is a lot of people know about it. So it's easier to talk to your friends, easier to talk to your mother, father. It's, that's some...
Yeah, it's time to have these conversations.
Yeah, I think egg freezing is extremely important. Birth control, these type of things. Definitely have that child when you want to have that child. Just think about it.
Yes. So coming to my next question, India is considered the diabetes capital of the world, right? So diabetes and hypertension are the two most common problems that you encounter. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So diabetes is something everybody knows. It's discovered every day. And there's a lot of things that people do every day that can help. Like walking and making sure you're eating right. But people forget other aspects. Strength training plays a huge role in diabetes control. And so, my friend Vishwa Bayo tells all the time, strength training for women, men, all of this is very important, not just for diabetes, but it plays a big role in controlling it.
Yes.
The other thing is, insulin is not an enemy. Your body cannot sometimes actually produce the insulin. By giving the insulin from the outside, you are not committing it's not because you failed. Literally, it is not a failure on your part. It's okay to take insulin. And nowadays you have pens, very small needles, you barely will feel it,
Very compact and easy to carry.
very compact, easy to carry. The new drugs, the GLP-1 drugs, they're coming more available in India. But it's not just metformin that is out there now. There's other things.
Yes.
It's important to go to your diabetologist, talk to them, and keep track. Every 3 months, take your HbA1c, do your strength training. Make sure that you are not just giving up because it didn't work for a few months.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Same thing with hypertension. Hypertension is very important. Don't stop taking your medications because one day your reading is good.
Yeah, I know. It's not that.
I've had people come up to me and be like, yeah, I took the medications, but it became 120 by 80.
It's under control.
It's under control.
You're not getting rid of it.
Because you took your medications.
Yeah.
And, one thing I will say that is in India, there's a lot of combination drugs out there for hypertension, which is fine. But don't just take the same medication you've been taking for 10 years and never go again to the doctor to talk about it. Because number one, that combination could not be working for you anymore. You might need to add more, right? So make sure that those doses are being checked every once in a while.
Yeah.
It could lead to strokes, it could lead to heart attacks, long-term effects on your kidneys, on your eyes. So it's best to take care.
Yeah, so we just have to emphasize on 3-month checkups with your endocrinologist or your GP.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nikhila, on such an insightful discussion on egg freezing, diabetes, hypertension, and healthcare in general. And so if you guys have any concerns or questions, you can drop in on the comments and stay tuned for the next interview.